This week has been a fantastic week for me because my new book, Can We Trust China, just came out. It's available on Amazon at $34.99. Really nice color version if you want to read it all. But if you just want to go through the text and understand very quickly, you can just buy the ebook. And I've made specifically possible that for the whole month of June, the ebook would only be at $2.99. So anybody can afford it. But this book really talks about a lot of things of how to trust and if we can trust China. Now, one of the key elements to this book is the model that I've used. A model, a very, very simple model that I'm going to explain now that helps us all to understand China. And so this model is really about a country in transition and having a different view on China. Now, what's important in that model is really to understand how we look at it today. And most of the people, specifically in the West, when they look at China, what they see is an authoritarian regime. A top-down regime where lots of people just have to comply. And so if you look at Hong Kong, they're fighting for their freedoms and rights and democracies because they're worried to lose a lot of their freedoms. While we in the West, specifically in Europe, where I'm from, we feel that we are part of a liberal democracy, everybody has a vote, everybody is treated equal, and so this is a very different society where we believe it's more bottom-up than top-down. Now, is this the right view? And why do we think like that? Well, we think like that because we see China as a collective society, while we see ourselves in the West, specifically in Europe, in America, we see ourselves as a very individualistic society. Now, being individualistic has a lot of benefits when it comes to being able to do things and voting equally, but also it means that people can actually progress, and that is also the protection of individualism that we always talk about. So we see a lot of benefits in that liberal democracy that we talk about. But when we look at China, we feel this authoritarian, collectivistic society. And that also has its benefits, because things can go fast, decisions can be taken fast, and people just follow it. And so we view China as a collective being really great to go fast, while we have to debate and we have to discuss, and sometimes we go slow because of that. But the downside from our perspective in the West towards China is that this collective society means that people have to comply and they have limited freedoms. And that is not something we in the West would ever want to lose. Now, is China really a collectivistic society, and are we an individualistic society? I think that view is completely wrong. It's flawed. And let me explain a little bit, because I believe China is as individualistic as we are, and we are as collectivistic as China is. I mean, think about the following. TikTok, a Chinese product called Douyin in Chinese. I mean, hundreds of millions of Chinese every day are in front of that camera talking to all their followers, and it's all about me, me, me. They want to be seen, they want to be the star, they want to talk about themselves. This is very individualistic. I mean, the whole world is falling in love with TikTok because this is what we like to do, but China is no different. It's even worse in terms of people going in front of the camera. And then if you look at athletes, for example, in China, I mean, they all want to win. I mean, look at the Winter Olympic Games. They all wanted to be the winner. And this is really about making sure that you are the expert, you're the best, you're actually being seen, and everybody looks up to you because you are individualistic looking at your achievements. This is also one of the reasons I believe China doesn't have a really great football team yet. Maybe it will come. Just because, yeah, there's no Kevin De Bruyne like in Belgium that really is a generalist and can do everything, just defense and offense and play in the middle field. And so we need more people in China, I believe, to be able to do lots of things, while Chinese typically want to be an expert. And being an expert means that you have an individualistic mindset. So why are we saying that China is collectivistic? And why are we saying that we in the West are individualistic? I mean, think about Brussels, where I live in Belgium. 1,000 demonstrations every single year. 1,000 demonstrations, more than one per day. It's like 3 per day. And there's thousands of people, 10,000 sometimes, coming to the streets, going to the streets to demonstrate, to protest for our collective rights. We don't know all these people, they're all strangers, but we together, we want to fight for making sure that the collective is protected. And then if you think about what happens in Ukraine these days, lots of people in Europe, in Belgium, in Germany, in every country in Europe, are taking people into their homes from Ukraine because we have a collective heart. This is also why they probably won the Eurovision Song Festival. I mean, we love to help because we feel as one collective, one group. So why is it, if you see this, that we say China's collectivistic and we are individualistic? It doesn't seem to make much sense, but there's some logic to it. And to do that, we have to delve into my book. And if you go into my book on page 34, I'm not going to bore you with the pages, but I've made what I call the 8 circles of trust. And so you have the inner circles here in red, which is all to do with the network, the people that you know, your relationships. These are the people that you have a connection with. It's your family, your friends, your colleagues, your bosses, maybe the network, the tribes you belong to, maybe the religion that you go to, and it's everything that basically you are part of, the inner network. And then the outer network is what I call the system network. And these circles of trust outside of the inner circle, it's all about the nation, the party in China, it's about the government, about the people in general, the universe, the culture. It's a lot of things that you as an individual don't have a lot of impact on. You can't change the people in the government as easily, or change their mind, or change the regulation, but they have a lot of impact on you. So the outer circles, the system, basically define a little bit who you are, your culture, your religion, maybe how you think about life, how basically the rules are, and everything that you are part of. And they set the rules and regulation. And so the outer circle is the system circle, the inner circle is the network circle. And so here's the difference between China and the West. And the main difference is pretty simple. Actually, if you look at the inner circles in China, you look at the network, the people, the relationship, or guanxi like they call it in China, you see that China is a family culture. It's a relationship culture. It's a civilization for 2,500 years where the connection between people, the network, the nodes within the people that know each other is very strong, and this is what they call the collective. These are the people that know each other, and they have to protect each other. They have to protect and create safety and structure and some kind of security, and this has been going on for centuries like that. And so the inner circle, the network circle, is really what makes people feel safe, and that is why they built these relationships. While in the West, what we see in Europe, in America, is that the outer circles, the system, is actually providing the security, the safety, and the structure. We're building institutions, we're building organizations, rules, regulations, lots of it, because we want to make sure that this system helps everyone to actually abide and the society to progress and the society to be stable. But the most important is this stability, it's this structure, it's this safety. We are spending all of our effort, or much of it, within the system to help the system stay safe. And so every individual within the system is actually secure. And so this is how we think as a collective. We think as a collective more from our outer circles. That's why we protest on the streets together. This is about changing the system, or making sure the system works better. Well, in China, you see the network having that function. Now, if you look at individualism, you have something else. In the West, in America, in Europe, in many Western countries, most Western countries, we're always saying we're very individualistic. We're very individualistic because within that network circle, people that know each other, friends, family, your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, and basically colleagues and bosses and so on, we're all trying somehow to help each other. We call that empowering, or coaching, or mentoring people around us to help them to actually progress in life, to have more prosperity, more opportunity, to have basically a better purpose, or achieve our purpose in life. And we're helping each other from within our network to actually achieve that big mountain and progress in life. And this is very individualistic because as humans, as people, human-centric society in Europe is all about helping each other to make the next step. And this is interesting because this is why we call our Western society individualistic. We care about these people. But when you look at China, actually, it's very weird. And this is something very difficult for most Westerns to understand, where the outer circle, the system circles actually, the party, the politicians, basically the government, but also everything out there, the culture, everything you can't touch, that this is actually helping individuals, people, to progress in life. And so many Chinese, not all of them, but many of them, will actually feel that their best chance to progress in life, to have more wealth and prosperity, and basically to have a purpose in life, to know where to go, is to surf on the wave of the direction of the outer system, which is often the party or the government that guides the people to a certain direction and say, this is where we need to go to become successful as a collective. But that is every individual, or most of them, feel that they have the best opportunity to follow that stream. And this is something very weird for us, because in the West, in Europe, in America, we don't trust that this outer system will help us improve our life so much. We feel more that this outer system should help us to protect us, not to improve things. And this is a very different way of thinking. Now, for the past 30, 40 years, the Chinese government, the Chinese system, the Chinese party even, has shown that there's been lots of progress with almost 800 million people that were taken out of poverty and much more wealth that was being created, a big middle class. And so for many people, following what the system does has actually worked out. And so they continue doing that. Now the question could be, once that stops, what will happen to China? But for now it seems to be going on. And so there's a trust level in the system, because in China the individual believes that that is his opportunity to progress, while we see our system as a situation of more control and structure. And so this is the opposite. And so this is also why many Chinese people, specifically a little bit older people, don't have so much problem that the government or that the system would look into their privacy, because they feel somehow over time this will benefit them as a collective first, and later as an individual for themselves. So why would I have something to not want to share? Why do I don't have any secrets. I can just share some information, because if that helps society, it will help me. And so this is the opposite mirror image. What we're having is that we're both collectivistic, we're both individualistic, but we're a mirror image of each other. And so where in the West, the system is much more about protecting by having a collective mindset in the system, and having the individual wants to progress and have ambitions on itself, in China it's the opposite. It's where the collective is looking at protection and security and safety within the network, and the outer network, the system, is really helping people to progress. And so this, for most Westerners, is very difficult to understand that mirror image. But it really helps to understand China if you look at it that way. Now, what it really means is the me and the we is almost opposite. And so when we talk about a collective society in China, we're really talking about the inner network, the guanxi, the collective relationship network. We're not talking about the system. And that's the mistake we often make. Well, for us, when we talk about the me, it's very clear that's the people. It's the people that you know, the connections. While we talk about our collective, this has to do with protecting the collective. In China, it's to do with progressing the collective. And so it's really very different, where we in the West are really looking at our outer system to protect and safeguard what we have. While in China, they're much more looking at the outer circles and the system, not to safeguard what they have, but to get more, and basically to progress and have prosperity for their future. And so this is also one of the main reasons why many Chinese trust their government and trust the system. And they trust the party. And why do they do that? Because they see progress, they see hope, they see dreams, they see things coming true, they see things being realized. While we have a lot more challenges with that in the West. Is one system better than the other? It's not. It's just different. And so I think we need to understand that to understand China. Now, simply said, we in the West, with our Western lens, our Western glasses, what we do is we look at our system as protective. Well, in China, they look at their system as progressive or projection. This is really about future. We're building dams to make sure that we're safe. China is building bridges to make sure they can cross the next hurdle and go to that next big dream that they have. And so this is where we in the West have lost a lot of our dreams, and because of that, we're protecting whatever we have. So it's quite easy when you understand that to also understand what China is often about. And so if you understand these things, and this is a model that I've created in my book, then I believe that 90% of all the images and information and content that you read online, and you try to change that Western lens into a Chinese lens, you might not understand it, you might not agree with it, but you could at least empathize and understand that there might be a different way to look at things that we do. And so this is not about who's right and who's wrong. I think it's more about trying to put on a Chinese lens from time to time to really have a simple model like this one to understand China better and understand why Chinese trust their system and why Chinese behave differently according to their values within their collective. And if we do that, I believe this is a very, very small step to learn somehow to trust China more.